May I come in, sir?
Come in. Have your seat, Shashvat.
Thank you, sir.
Comfortable?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Introduce yourself.
So my name is Shashvat Sangwan. I come from district Bhiwani in Haryana. I studied engineering at BITS Pilani. I'm fortunate to have a wide cultural and professional work experience, first as a data scientist in a multinational corporation, followed by a stint in the India Trade Promotion Organization, which is a public sector undertaking under the Commerce Ministry. Currently, sir, I'm training for the Indian Defence Estate Services at Delhi Cant. I was allotted it on the basis of UPSC 2020. I run marathon, sir, and I'm a national basketball player.
You run marathon?
And I'm a national basketball player, sir.
Who is holding the national level marathon record in India?
Sir, it's Mr. Narendra Rawat.
Okay.
He represents the Indian Army. He's a Jawan in the Army.
And what is his record?
It's a full marathon. It's close to 2 hours and 10 minutes or 12 minutes, sir. I'm not very sure.
Okay. Is there any Indian who is having better record than that?
So I'm not aware.
Okay. And you also play volleyball. Which game you said?
Basketball, sir.
Basketball.
Right, sir.
And you're working in MNC or worked for?
Right, sir.
What's the difference between an MNC and TNC? That is transnational corporation and multinational corporation.
Sir, I'm not very sure about the difference.
How do we identify a company to be an MNC?
So I believe it's in the name itself. Multinational would mean that it has geographical presence across different countries, sir. More than one country.
So do we have Indian MNCs?
Oh, of course, sir. We have.
Can you name some important
So
ones?
we have Infosys, we have Wipro, then we have Maruti in the South Asian market, sir. Yes, sir.
In the context of this war which is going on in Ukraine,
Right.
the phrase is revived again. Military industry complex. What do you understand by this phrase?
Sir, I'm not sure, sir.
Not heard about it?
No, sir.
Okay. And national monetization scheme, I think you have.
Yes, sir.
You know about it. What exactly is the philosophy behind it?
So the philosophy is to put is resource efficiency, to put in one phrase. It seeks to unlock the capital value in different capital assets such as land, buildings, etc., and put them to more productive use, which is also speeding up in the process of covering the financial deficit which is there in the recent budget and the previous one due to the COVID crisis. So that's about it, sir.
So do you think Indian defense state is also having a huge land bank that should be monetized?
So we have over 17.5 lakh acres of land. And as evident in the government's policy, there have been proposals to start identifying tracts of land which have no immediate use. So the procedure is underway. And of course, sir, if the report finding suggests such moves would benefit the country, of course, that should be taken forward, sir.
So do you think that the resources which will be mobilized after monetization of this defense estate property should also be invested back in defense estate?
So that is exactly what the proposal that was tabled by our General and Honorable Raksha Mantri, sir. So we need more technology upgradation in the military. We need more spending in the military. And out of the 2 or 3 main sources of funding identified, unlocking this land value was one of them. And if I'm correct, sir, 50,000 crores was the annual estimation of revenue that would be generated through this.
What's the role of defense estate in implementation of defense corridor project?
Sir, I'm not very sure about it. But since we deal with defense land related matters, our main function is acquisition of land, control of land, and relinquishment of land. So I would believe it would be something close to just acquiring those tracts of land in which those corridors would be established.
Okay, nice, Shashwat. Thanks, madam.
Shashwat.
Yes, ma'am.
So you are from Haryana.
Right, ma'am.
What is the sex ratio of Haryana?
Ma'am, 2011 census pegged it at 879.
And what do you think about it?
It's a very sad situation, to say the least. But that being said, ma'am, we just crossed 900 according to local estimates, local surveys that was done by Government of Haryana. So there is a promising picture with better education, with more awareness spread and more women entering conventionally male-dominated fields. So we are seeing an uptick there.
Okay. So if you are posted as DM of a district where you see that sex ratio is very bad,
Right.
What steps can you take? Suggest something innovative, 1 or 2 steps.
Ma'am, I believe that this whole dismal situation, it begins in the whole household of a woman itself. So first we need to spread social awareness, and my solution would also be along those lines. We should celebrate the birth of daughters, because if the birth is celebrated, it was actually witnessed in a few villages where the elected women representatives, they started distributing sweets, planting trees, etc. when women were born. And one of the villages by the name of Chapar in Haryana, there we actually saw much big rise in the sex ratio at birth due to celebration of birth of the girl child. So I believe, ma'am, something along those lines would be a very good medium. Secondly, ma'am, since I come from a sports background, I believe sports not just creates physical fitness but mental toughness as well. And as we promote more sports for women, that would in turn flow back some kind of awareness and sensitization that women also are very significant parts of the society in general.
Okay. Tell me, as a student of anthropology, what does Homo sapiens sapiens mean?
Right, ma'am. So we are divided so as to what to call our present generation as we exist. 2 schools of thoughts are there. First is Homo sapiens, second is Homo sapiens sapiens. So Homo sapiens as such is a larger genus in which we have some other similar fossil-based humans that were found. And Homo sapiens sapiens is just a more evolved version of that. So it just means a wise ape in general. So if you say that Homo sapien is a genus and Homo sapiens sapien is a species, that's a form of classification. But
Homos in itself is a genus.
Yes, but they try to sub-classify it into a more specific species known as...
But every genus is made genus because it has few species in it. But we are the only species in this genus.
Right. That is because we are the only surviving species. There were some kind of fossil humans that existed, such as Homo neanderthals, etc. So some
what could be the reason for this?
Sorry?
What can be the reason for this?
There is a debate in the scientific community regarding classification of the current fossils, and as more knowledge is keep coming, they keep reclassifying it and readjusting the research finds. So one school of thought said that Homo sapiens sapiens, that the current civilization is, that's how it should be classified, and there are more species in it. So
okay, so let's take a situation.
Yes.
So you are posted somewhere and you have to shell out some budget, and the budget is fixed, and you find in that particular organization that the pay of women is less than men.
Right.
And now you want to correct it because you want women to have the same pay as the men. But the budget is fixed, so you'll have to lay off some people who will. This will impact the families of those workers.
Right.
What will you do?
So is it a private corporation or is it a government corporation? Because it depends on the labor laws. How
government corporation.
Okay, right. Ma'am, in that case, I believe even our constitutional mandate, Article 39E, calls for equal parity of pay between men and women, provided they're doing the same stuff. So I would call for more funds so that at least they are brought at the same parity. I would seek mobilization of funds through various channels, if not through my parent ministry. I would tap into the MP Lads funds. I would tap into the local philanthropists to replenish the revenue pile through which those things can be done. If it is not possible legally, maybe, ma'am, I'll try to put some incentives, some work-based incentives, some extra allowances through which that gap should be fulfilled. But in the longer run, I would definitely try and call for a policy change at the higher levels.
Thank you.
Shashvat.
Yes, sir.
Recently, Sri Lanka is facing a deep economic crisis. So what are the factors responsible for that?
So it's because of several reasons. First and the foremost is that domestic polity is the reason that is causing unjustified spending, unjustified borrowing through countries like China. So they are not able to pay the interest on that. Secondly, sir, I feel poor management of funds, poor expenditure, undue housing projects were sanctioned where there was not enough food for the people.
Now India is helping out Sri Lanka with aid and through other means.
Sir.
But it seems that there has been a lot of negative coverage in Sri Lankan media,
right, sir,
of India giving aid from one hand, and from the other hand it is asking Sri Lanka to expedite many projects,
right,
in
sir,
which India is involved. So do you think that is justified on India's part to take advantage of Sri Lanka's problems?
So I wouldn't go as far as saying that it is taking advantage, but as the philosophy goes that you should give and you should forget, that should be a stronger driving force, as you rightly pointed out. Again, that being said, sir, the media coverage is not the coverage of, say, the Ministry of External Affairs or Press Information Bureau. So there can be...
makes the public perception. So if the people of Sri Lanka start believing in that,
right, sir.
Don't you think it is not good for India's relations with Sri Lanka?
So it definitely affects our relationships in a negative manner. And that should be countered with a positive narrative and the positive effects those things are bringing in.
Okay, now in Ukraine crisis, India has repeatedly abstained in United Nations over many resolutions which were critical of Russia.
Right, sir.
Everybody is trying to justify what India is doing based on India following its national interests.
Right, sir.
But if we talk on a moral plane,
right, sir.
Can we still justify India's neutrality?
So I wouldn't say India is neutral. India is multi-aligned. That is the stance that India is taking presently. So on one side, it is abstaining on the hard vote that it had in the UN Security Council, which was in the larger national interest, as you pointed out. On the other hand, it has been condemning the actions of Russia. It has been issuing phone calls and other diplomatic means to extend the message of non-violence, as we've always been. So we are caught in a tough spot, and as the situation is still evolving, it's too early to say how things will pan out. But that being said, sir, we are definitely taking a positive moral.
Okay, now you are working also with the IDAS.
Right, sir.
So a major issue has happened, where a missile, supersonic missile at that,
yes, sir,
has been fired accidentally.
Right, sir.
Against Pakistan.
Yes, sir.
So, and from Indian side, there was nothing said on this event, and it was only after Pakistan raised it that we said, yes, there has been a accidental firing of the missile.
Yes, sir.
So, how does it reflect on the India's defense establishment?
Yes, sir. So India claimed responsibility for the misdeed that was happening. I feel that was the first step in damage control. That being said, sir, it was an evolving technology, and at times it does misfire. So India definitely...
But like two nuclear powered neighbors,
right, sir,
having hostile relations, and then you fire a supersonic or misfire a supersonic missile, and nothing is said. Like there should be an immediate report sent to Pakistan that it has happened by accident. Otherwise, things can escalate.
Right, sir. Sir, I think the clarification issued by Honorable Raksha Mantri was in the same regard. He said that a fair and unbiased investigation for the probe will be done. That being said, sir, we should have been for sure more careful, and that also with a hostile neighbor, such an event happening. So it is indeed apologetic. But
okay, my final question to you, Shashvat, you are a student of anthropology.
Right, sir.
So tell me, who has given this concept of cultural personality, and what is its relevance in anthropology?
Right, sir. So cultural and personality is a school of thought in which there are several scholars such as Madam Ruth Benedict, Margaret Mead, Professor Ralph Linton.
And its significance?
Significance is that, so first I'll tell you the significance of the concept, and it's a very beautiful practical application of the same thing. So the significance is that culture shapes personality. So if we are growing up in a country or a civilization with very liberal values, then we take up those kind of aspects. We are thinking in an open-minded direction, etc. So what it is saying that what you can say about a culture, you can say about a person coming from that culture. So a very beautiful practical application was during the Second World War. So around those times, they were Professor Ralph Linton and Margaret Mead, they went to Japan to study how their kids were brought up in a very aggressive environment. And that way they could determine the next moves of their army. So it was called a National Character Study Project, and that's where it
Thank you, Shashwat. So,
Shashwat, your optional is anthropology.
Sir.
One question, how will you apply your knowledge of anthropology in the field of administration for the better governance?
So I would break my answer into two parts. Firstly, I will talk about, firstly, anthropology study brings you closer to very beautiful communities known as tribals. And the learnings from their study, such as the simplicity aspect, the honesty aspect, keeping minimalism ahead. I feel empathy. So those are very essential qualities for an administrator. So during the study of anthropology, I came across some ethnographies of certain tribes, and that really, their lifestyle really inspired me. to.
What are the tribes you came across, especially in northeastern regions?
So the Khasi tribes and the Naga tribes were two tribes in which.
Where are they found?
So the Naga tribes are found across Manipur, Nagaland and Mizoram region. The Khasi tribes are endemic to Meghalaya, sir.
Okay, if you're talking about northeastern states, I mean, the northeastern regions have been in news for a variety of reasons.
Sir.
Especially when I'm talking about Assam, the Karbi-Anglong Pact. Also before that, the Bodo Peace Accord was there.
Yes, sir.
But still, there have been peace accord previously as well. But the situation more or less is same. What is wrong with the policy front in this regard?
So I believe that even though there are hard negotiations being done, there are beautifully crafted things that are put on paper, but the sensitization part, the humanistic part, the emotional part, the bonding part is not really being done in a very positive way. So what can be done in this regard is that there is a mission, I'm not able to hear, but in which Kashmiri youth are brought one-to-one with the administration and their grievances are heard out. So I believe something of that where the ground situation is analyzed. And
don't you think district councils are working fine in this regard?
So even though they have a mandate, but there have been certain challenges, like they are being superseded by the state administration during different development bodies. There has been a fund crunch.
What is the difference between 5th schedule areas and 6th schedule areas in this regard?
So 5th schedule areas and 6th, so they are a British legacy which has been inherited. So 5th are which are more generalized, more amalgamated with the general areas, and 6th schedule has more cutoff. So 4 states are in 6th schedule: Assam, Tripura, Meghalaya and Mizoram. And there are 10 states in the 5th schedule, sir, where they are given different rights and privileges for self-administration.
So how would you declare an area as the schedule area for that matter?
So it's done by a presidential order, and the President of India under his seal declares it to be a scheduled area, which is directly under the supervision of the Honorable.
Let's talk something about history. Are you comfortable?
Yes, sir.
How do you see the role of Gandhi? How it is different from the idea of Bhagat Singh? How they both are different in each other? I mean, in terms of perspective, both were talking about the freedom from the draconian rule of British Empire.
Right, sir.
But what were the ideological differences between Gandhi and Bhagat Singh that you would like to adopt in your life?
Right, sir.
Both were ideological different. They were having differences ideologically.
Absolutely.
But
sir.
what kind of ideas you would like to adopt? What kind of ideology you would like to adopt in the administration in this context?
So from Mr. Bhagat Singh, I'm really inspired by his enthusiasm, by his energy levels, by his appeal to the youth and the masses. Since he was a younger leader, he had those qualities and he capitalized on that by directly establishing a relationship with the youth. So I believe that I would like to take up that aspect of his qualities. As far as Gandhiji is concerned, I believe he had a maturity to deal with different sections of the society, appeasing a lot of them at the same time. So I believe he had a very humanistic approach, a very personal connect to wide section of people.
He never resorted for violence at all, Gandhi?
So in his book Hind Swaraj, he had mentioned that inequality can be countered with violence. Apart from that, there is no example to show that he has ever used the violent route for it.
What about the slogan "Do or Die" then?
Doing was not an incitement to violence. He was very clear whenever he gave that slogan. He started the Satyagraha movement, which was essentially non-violence.
Between Champaran, Ahmedabad and Kheda, which is the most in your life, which has, you personally can take away anything from that movement?
So I feel the Ahmedabad mill strike was a very impactful when I was reading it for the first time.
Why?
So because it was a very interesting situation where Mr. Anusuya Sarabhai and her brother was a mill owner, and the sister, she was also involved with the workers. So Gandhiji was in a very tough situation where one of his very close aides was also on the other side, but still he took the stance of the poorer people, the mill workers, and he did not go with his personal bias, but he in fact stood with what he felt was right.
He did something called hunger strike.
Right, sir.
So hunger strike was against whom? The mill owners or the people themselves who were protesting there?
So it was against the mill owners who were not able to give.
Are you sure about that?
So based on my reading, that's the conclusion.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you so much, sir.
Shashvat.
Yes, ma'am.
Recently, IPCC's 6th report was published.
Right, ma'am.
And it had mention of India. Can you tell me in what context and what did it say about India?
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, from what I recollect, 3 to 4 findings were there, which was standing out. So it said that extreme weather events frequency is going to increase. Then it said that the severity is also going to increase. It said that we must shift to a more sustainable irrigation system because the monsoon regularity might also be affected. Then it said that cities like Mumbai, Calcutta were very prone to urban flooding. So these are the few things.
And IPCC also identified that even 1.5 degrees centigrade limit of temperature is a very ambitious target, looking at the measures we are adopting and at the pace with which we are adopting.
Right, ma'am.
Can you say, as a student of anthropology also, do you think we as human species are using our planet very irresponsibly, our outer space very irresponsibly, our seas, our resources, everything, and we are kind of digging our own graves?
Ma'am, I would, without any doubt, I would agree 100% with the statement that you are making. It's evident in so many ways in terms of climate change, in terms of social inequalities, because it's such a stark contrast that we are exploiting our resources more and still the inequality is increasing more. So there is a fundamental flaw in the way resources are being exploited and distributed amongst the
And
people.
someday down the line, we're going to exhaust ourselves.
Ma'am, being hopeful, being optimistic, we do hope that people like us drive some kind of change. Like I'm involved in an activity called plogging in my runners group. So where we pick up trash on the street, we pick up plastics, we pick up other kind of metal that is there. So when we started, we were only 10 to 15 people in 2020. Now, ma'am, more than 300 people are turning up every other Saturday. So I feel that people are positive leaning. They just need a direction where their energies are involved for conservation.
Okay, my last question to you regarding hijab row. If you could see this entire episode
Right.
purely from the point of view of women and them having an agency over their own body and their right over their clothing, whatever they choose to wear. Do you agree with the High Court verdict? We leave out the religion and politics out of it.
Ma'am, how a woman feels is based on her perception, which is evolved on the society in which she grows up with. So maybe some women are more comfortable in wearing, some are not more comfortable in wearing. So it's a individual choice from the perspective of a woman, what they are more comfortable, because end goal is education in the institutions where they are studying. So whatever they are more comfortable in, whatever they are more...
So maybe the High Court should reconsider the verdict, or the Supreme Court should re-examine
I
the
wouldn't
entire
go as
question?
far as saying that they should reconsider the verdict, but I'm very sure they did consider this aspect as well, but they have to protect larger interest and they might have some more facts and more observations to reach that conclusion. But purely from a woman's point of view, I feel it's their comfort and their education, what drives that should be the consideration.
Okay, thank you.
Shashvat, recently a Southeast Asian country has decided to shift its capital. Have you come across this news?
No, sir, I'm sorry.
What kind of local disturbance is going on nowadays in Laos and also in Myanmar?
So Laos, Cambodia, I'm not very sure about, but in Myanmar, there were some skirmishes between the elected government and the Janta government.
What kind of controversy is going on?
Sir, there were elections that were held and the military Janta did not agree with that and they did a coup to snatch the power in their own hand.
Okay, that's about last year, recently, in last 2-3 months.
Sir, I'm sorry, I could not.
Okay, you're not updated about the local developments in Southeast Asia. What kind of relationship we are enjoying nowadays with Southeast Asian countries? Do we still have a functional free trade agreement with ASEAN?
So we have a trade agreement, but I wouldn't go as far as saying it is functional because there are a lot of exceptions and a lot of clauses such as trade in services where India has a upper hand. So even though a free trade agreement has been negotiated and we pulled out of the RCEP, there is still a long way to go. I still feel that that the service sector of India, which is in boom, is not getting an equal opportunity of representation there, whereas they have the goods advantage. So even though there is a system that is in place, but it has a lot of exceptions and work needs to be done on.
Many sections of society of South India, corporate section, social section, cultural, are closely linked to the Southeast Asian counterparts for thousands of years. Do you think that the central government is taking sufficient interest in nurturing those interests, relationships?
So we do have cultural programs, cultural restorations happening in Cambodia, happening in Thailand, Burma as well. But that being said, more can be done. That link, that heritage needs to be capitalized more through people-to-people connect networks, joint summits, student exchanges, etc. So that is an area which has been not conventionally tapped into. But that being said, sir, I believe there have been some round of negotiations too.
Our relationship with America is not as warm as it used to be during the reign of Mr. Trump. And we are not having the best of relationship with European countries either. So do you think our Ministry of External Affairs is working efficiently nowadays?
So I believe that relationships work from both sides. It's not just how our ministry works, it's also about the interests of the Western world that have to be taken into account. That being said, sir, we are trying to follow the tough path between two. For example, we had to really procure the S-400 missiles from Russia. And we also had to balance our ties with America. So we were pacifying them in various ways by giving them trade concessions.
No, I'm not talking in terms of only Ukrainian crisis.
Right.
The startup bust, that means startups have been busting fast. Americans have been pulling their fund.
Right, sir.
The patronization by venture capital funds or investment fund is weakening very fast.
Right, sir.
There are many Chinese and Hong Kong based companies also, because you have worked in those companies.
Right, sir.
So, and you are staying in Bangalore, you stayed there.
Right, sir.
So you know better that the kind of global patronization of Indian startup is now weakening, because we are not very warm with either the Southeast Asian countries or Western countries.
So the VC money is very fluid, it's very liquid. It comes and it goes at a very fast pace. So their objective is not a lot of times to build sustainable business models or to fund them. There are short-term objectives which can be something as short as few minutes in a day where they give their money and pull out. That being said, sir, the startup ecosystem in India is really enhancing. There have been a lot of concessions by the MSME and Commerce Ministry. So we are expanding into sustainable businesses. It is true that the money is flowing towards Southeast Asia, but that should not be taken as a sign that our startups are not as good or we don't attract that anymore. It's maybe something at a microeconomic level that is driving this change. It's not a long-term trend is what I like to believe.
Okay, Shashvat, nice talking to you. Your interview is over. You may go now.
Thank you. Thank you.
Have your seat.
Thank you, sir.
So, how do you rate your performance? What is your takeaway?
So I could have done better in current event related questions.
Content-wise, information-wise. Okay.
Yes, sir. That is where I place my deficit.
Other dimensions of the personality?
So that is the main thing that, I walked out with the room feeling that I should have had more grip over current events and how they are progressing. That is the largely.
Okay, your interview is on 8th of April.
Right, sir.
So roughly 8-9 days are there with you.
Right, sir.
Of course, you can do that. We are not going to suggest on content part. You have already identified which are the areas we are prepared, which are the other areas which you need to further update.
Right, sir.
Because you have gone through the interview, you are already in the job, or different kind of job you have done. Your entry is good, your sitting posture is good. Sitting posture, that means needs some improvement. That means if you could straighten your body further, because it didn't look very nice. Your blazer was not straight. This time it is better.
Thank you, sir.
Your selection of color of sock with the blue.
Oh, right, sir.
Consider it if it is, perhaps it is not in sync with the color of your suit.
Right, sir.
And maybe black would be better.
Right, sir.
If you are wearing this suit only, blue could be better.
Sure, sir.
So, in appearance part, you also kept your hand clasped throughout the interview.
Right, sir.
And it was tightly clasped.
Okay,
So
sir.
that should be avoided, because that indicates about some kind of anxiety.
Okay, sir.
So be at calm,
Right, sir.
posture kind of thing.
Right, sir.
Similarly, watch the video. Your facial expression sometimes appeared a little informal.
Okay, sir.
It goes well with the corporate lifestyle
Right,
and working style, but in administration they appear to be more formal.
Okay, sir.
And on certain occasions, your expressions, that is the phrases you used, also was a little informal.
Right, sir.
For example, on one particular question, you said that, okay, I'll first tell this and then I'll explain that.
I'll avoid that.
So better avoid that. That they may just take note of it and they mind it.
Sure.
Twice or thrice you look at the way you have handled or expressed your opinion this way.
Okay, sir.
On a couple of occasions. In that part also you had this kind of conversation.
Right, sir.
But these are the points for improvement, and overall your impact is very positive. Generally we don't make an assessment of the kind of marks you are likely to score.
Right, sir.
But you are, of course, in grade A category and much better than average performance of the candidates.
Thank you for the kind words.
And of course, even last attempt you could have scored better.
Right, sir.
What was the score?
So 170.
70. I think you deserve even more than that. Based on the performance you have given today.
Right, sir.
And we hope that with certain improvements in your presentation particularly.
Right, sir.
And you can make that significant change which you need to improve your rank.
Right, sir.
I think what is your expectation about mains score this time?
So I feel it's better than last time.
Okay.
So
make it a final attempt. That means you've got the potential and your performance is also there. You can make it your final attempt. You can achieve that aspirational rank you targeting.
Thank you so much, sir.
Any questions from your side?
No, sir. I'm just grateful and appreciative of the time that, it's been a long day for you.
Okay.
So thank you for the time and efforts. I'll keep the feedback in mind, sir. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you for your wishes. Thank
All
you
the
so
best.
much. Thank you, sir.
All the best.